There we go. Okay, guys, so like I mentioned, we're going to review. Today, we're going to review chapter 3. Chapter 3 was that long chapter that we covered back in step 1, and we took our time with it because it's very important for the whole stats class. So just give this a second. Remember in chapter 3, we're describing data. I do apologize for my handwriting. It's not always the neatest. Let's see if this will focus. It may need a little bit more. It's okay. I might have to try it again. So when we're describing a data set, what I'm looking for is shape, center, and spread. Okay. And try to focus that again. Okay. All right. So shape, center, and spread. So first of all, let's talk about the shapes. So we have different shapes. There we go. That marker is better. So we have, of course, the symmetric shape. We work with this a lot. We worked with this a lot in step 1, right? We always want everything bell-shaped, normal shape, symmetric shape. So if we're looking at a histogram, I'll try to draw it kind of quick. We're looking at something like this, right? If we're looking at a histogram, if you're looking at just like a curve, right? Like the empirical rule, so bell-shaped, symmetric. And what we're looking at here is that our mean is equal to our median. So that means that the mean and the median are both right here in the middle. Okay. We can also view this in a box plot, and we're actually going to do that a lot this semester. We didn't really do too much in step 1 with, we learned box plots. We learned about them. We learned what they look like, how to draw them, all that stuff. So if you had a box plot, this is what we're looking at if it's symmetric. Our whiskers are basically the same length. Our median line is in the middle and our mean is in the middle as well. I have it offset a little bit because it's real data. It's not always perfect, right? So they're fairly close. That's the mean, and then right here is the median. So the mean and median should be the same, okay? So that's our symmetric data set. If I remove this too soon, you can always ask me to show it again, or just keep in mind, I'm going to scan these in and post them, okay, today. So you can always go back to these. I don't mean to remove it fast. It's just I run out of room and I want to keep moving. So I'll try to keep some of it there. All right, so the next shape is skewed right. We actually are going to use this semester as well. The skewed right. We didn't really talk too much about it other than recognizing it in step 1. We're going to do a little bit more with it. So keep in mind when we have skewed right, we're looking at when we have this tail on the right. So if we're looking at like a histogram type of thing, we have something like this, and then you have this trail of like, I kind of get dramatic with it because I want you to see, but you have this trail here to the right. So it goes up and then it's like this trail over here to the right. My drawings aren't always the best, but that's okay. So if the trail is to the right and I have all these little values to the right, then that means my mean gets pulled to the right as well. So here what we're looking at is that the mean is actually larger than the median because it's pulled. So here the median is always in the middle. Remember, the median is the 50th percentile, and then the mean is to the right. It's greater than the median. Of course, with this, we can still view in a box plot form. So if I have my box plot, if it's skewed right, then we typically have a longer whisker to the right. I get a little dramatic with it because I want you guys to see it in an obvious way. It's not always that obvious, right? Because we're working with real data. It's not always that cut and dry. And then my median, just like in the histogram, is over to the left side a little bit more. And then my mean is pulled to the right. So this is still the median and or quartile 2, right? And this is the mean here. And then the last one is the skewed left. We don't do as much with this one, not even this semester, but we still talk about it quite a bit in the beginning. So skewed left is just opposite from the skewed right. We have this tail on the left. So I always have a harder time drawing this one. So I've got all these little data values over here on the left, like that. So oops, we got this trail of values over here, and then the mode, and then it drops down. With this one, my mean is less than my median. The mean is less than the median because it's to the left. It's being brought to the left. All of these little values are pulling it down, right? It's like if you start failing a whole bunch of quizzes, you don't add up to be a lot, but it's going to start bringing your grade down, right? Think about it that way. So the mean is here. We don't like to see that. And the median is still that 50th percentile, somewhere in the middle. Okay. So for our box plot here, I'm going to squeeze it in because I want it on the same piece of paper. My box plot here, it's going to look just like the opposite of this one from the skewed right. So you have like a longer whisker to the left and a shorter one on the right side. My median is over towards the right, and then my mean is to the left. So what we're going to do today is we're going to learn how to draw these in Minitab. We're going to learn how to tell the shape, center, and spread of a distribution, so of data, using Minitab. So we're going to use Minitab to draw these pictures for us and get some values so we can tell what shape they are right from that. So remember, telling the shape, and that's what I was doing here, you don't need just all three, right? You don't need a box plot and a histogram and the mean and median. You just need one, right? You can take one of those. And usually a graph is really simple to have Minitab do, and you can get an idea, like really visual, right, of what's going on. So we could tell the shape just by using one of these. The actual numbers of mean and median, a histogram, or a box plot. Okay. I'm going to go through an example with you guys in a few minutes, and we'll look. I'll show you how to do it. Okay. So that's the shape. The next thing is the center we want to talk about. Okay. So here for my center, remember what the center is. The center is what we call the typical value. Okay, we can use different values to call the typical value or the center. And we typically use the mean or the median, right? So we don't really use the mode that much. Remember what the mode is? That's this tallest bar in my histogram. And it gives me its own piece of information, right? But we don't really use that for the typical value or the center. But we use the mean or, which is my average, right, of all my values. I write that down. Or I use the median, which the median is quartile 2. It's the 50th percentile, which means 50% of the data is less than that number and 50% is greater than that number. So we're going to use the median for my center, okay, when outliers are present. And what we're going to do is we're going to compare and report values. So when I ask about the center, if we have outliers, we talked about this a lot in stat 1, how important outliers are. And right here, it's coming up again in stat 2 already. If I have outliers, I'm going to use that median, okay? Remember, we use the median because it's what we call, it's resistant to outliers, okay? And then I'll write that down here in a minute. And we're going to use the mean when we don't have outliers. Okay, and again, we will compare and report values. Okay, so if we have a couple different data sets, that's what I mean when I say we'll compare and report these values. Right, we can get the values, we're going to report them, meaning we're just going to state what they are, and we can compare them to another data set. Okay. So let me just write down here that the mean is what we call sensitive to outliers, and median is resistant. So that's why if we have outliers, it determines if we use mean or median for our center. Okay. So that's the shape and the center. So now let's talk about the spread and what the spread is. Remember, this is how spread out my data is. So here for my spread, this is also called the variability. Okay. So here we're going to use IQR. Remember, that's interquartile range. Or we use standard deviation. So interquartile range is quartile 3 minus quartile 1. It's the width of my box. Okay. So remember, S is standard deviation, but I'm going to write SD. So you're all familiar with the different notation. Sometimes I say SD just to abbreviate standard deviation. I never write this out, like ever. Really, in stat 1, we use just lowercase s. Remember in our calculators, it was S with a little X there was our sample standard deviation, right? So that's our standard deviation. So we're going to use the IQR. When outliers are present, because again, IQR is very similar to quartile 2, right? Because it's quartile 3 minus quartile 1. It's resistant to those outliers. So when we have outliers, we use the IQR for the spread of our data. So again, we're going to compare and report values. And then we will use the standard deviation. And you really can use either one. So maybe I'll put that. Standard deviation, and maybe I'll put right here, or IQR. I'll add that to the other page too. When we do not have outliers. Okay. So really, it's not that you have to use standard deviation. You can use IQR, right? Because if you have a box plot, an IQR just makes more sense. Because it's right there. It's the width of your box. It makes sense. Let me also just make a little note in here. The IQR, this is that middle 50%, right? It's the width of the box. It's the middle 50% of your data. Just to refresh our memory on that a little bit. So here we're going to compare again and report values. I'm just going to make a change on up here in the center one. I'm just going to put right here, use mean, and I'm going to put or median. Really, you can use either, okay? It's just you don't want to use the mean if you have outliers. That's basically what I'm getting at. You don't want to use standard deviation if you have outliers because it's sensitive to it, right? You use the mean in your standard deviation calculation. Remember what the standard deviation is? The standard deviation is that average distance from the mean, right? It's the average distance of all of your data values, how far it is from that mean. So it is sensitive. I'm just going to write this down so we're all on the same page. So here, so SD is sensitive to outliers. So meaning the outliers change it changes that value. And we don't like to see that. And IQR is not sensitive to outliers. Okay. So that's like chapter 3 in really fast mode. Okay. So when step 1, we take like 2 weeks to do all that. Not all that, we add more to it, right? More detail. But this is just a review and a quick overview, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. So it's like the fast pace chapter 3. I want to go through an example with you guys. So what I want to do is I want to show you an example where we're going to use this stuff and we're going to use Minitab to give us information because that's what we're doing in this class. Okay. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. How do we access Minitab on our laptops? Because I was looking on my courses and I can't find a link. Anyway,
there is no link. You have to download it onto your onto your computer. So you will have to Google RIT Minitab 19 and you will have to download it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yep. All right. So I am, let's see, going to change this around, maybe. And I have to share my screen. And I want to show you, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to show you Minitab and I want to show you like the notes where you can find everything. So I'm going to go to the notes first. I think I have to keep kind of going back and forth with sharing the screen. I will check with you guys and see what you can see and make sure we're all on the same page. So I want to show you the notes. So what I did already is I went into our into my courses and under day 1 and I had the day 1 notes and I downloaded them. You will want to do that because if you view it in your web browser, then it looks like skewed. It's really funny, like things aren't lined up right. Things are like in weird places. And I don't know, it's probably because we use like an equation editor and stuff like that, and like arrows, and they just don't line up right. So you will want to download the notes. So I'm just going to share my screen so you can see what I'm talking about. In the future, you probably just want to pull it up yourself as I talk, and we'll figure out what works. In today's day 1 notes, I have a whole bunch of information, kind of like what I went over with the syllabus a little bit first, and you can read through that. And then you'll see like different videos. So I stole these notes from Professor Coffee. She's another stats professor here. We used to share an office. So we like used to share a lot of stuff. So anyways, like there's like little videos that are hers, just so you know, they're not my videos. They're her videos because these are her notes. So what I want to do, and I'm sorry I didn't write this down because I usually write it down. I want to go to example number 3 on page 14. So I'm sorry I didn't write it down. I usually write it down. I didn't do that. So I'm going to scroll right down. What I want you to notice as you scroll in these notes, it has examples. It talks about what I just talked about. But again, it's not my wording. It's not how I discuss it, but it's another way. And then there's examples, and then there's solutions to the examples. So you'll see examples and the answers to those examples, which is really nice. And then I have my examples in here that I'm going to use in class. And look, it tells you how to do Minitab stuff, like right here with pictures. These notes are very helpful for you. And that's why I use them to give to you guys. Okay, so on page 14, also the pages won't line up if you are just viewing it in your browser. So it might say page 15 for example 3 when it's really page 14. So I'm just going to show you this. We'll look at it. I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to switch my screen to Minitab so you guys can see it. So examples 3 right here, we're talking about this packaging plant, and it's a machine that packs cartons with jars, okay? And we're discussing the time it takes for a new machine that was purchased and an old machine that the company already had, right? And so there's different reasons why we do analysis on different on number sets, right? And this, we want to know, is the new machine really worthwhile, right? Was it worth that purchase of a new machine? Does it really pack that much faster? That kind of thing, right? So we want to kind of draw some conclusions about that. So it really helps to think about what are you studying and maybe why. I see there's a chat. I don't know if I can, oh, I can get to it. Okay. Yes, maybe. So for the daily assignments, are we submitting them with work done on Minitab? Yes, you are. And I'll show you what you're going to do. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this. So we have this right here. Hopefully you guys have that in front of you and you can refer back to it because I want to share Minitab. So I'm going to stop my share and I have to redo that. In just a second, I need to change something. I don't know if I can.
If you ever hover over my name, Professor.
There you are. I couldn't find you. Thank you. I'm looking. Okay, so yes. Okay, thank you so much for that. All right, now I'm going to share my screen, guys, and we're going to look at the Minitab. I will do this every class. I'm going to show you how to do an example so you can see it, and then you're going to try it on your own, okay? I'm going to be here to answer questions. Today, we're going to be running a little short in time. That's okay. It's all right. So I'm going to open up my Minitab screen and share this with you. So once you guys get your Minitab, hopefully downloaded, hopefully you did it over the weekend before class today. If not, it's not a big deal. You'll have time. You could try it today. But what you're going to do is when you go into my courses, you go under day 1 and you'll see the data set. So on this example, it said like, okay, here's the example 3. It's what it's about. And then it says open data set day 1 machine.mtw. So you just click on that and it will open it up in Minitab for you. If it doesn't, let me know. Sometimes I have like an older data set, which I shouldn't because I think I've updated them all. And like maybe they were made in Minitab 18 and then they don't like Minitab 19. So I have to like do some finagling to get it to work. So just let me know if you have issues because otherwise I don't know that you have them. Okay, so let's take a look at the problem. So it says before starting, identify the variables and classify as numerical and categorical and state the levels of any categorical variable. So levels just mean like how many different options you have. So in step one, we're used to, for a categorical variable, being a yes, no question, right? Do you have blue eyes? Yes or no. Levels now, and we're going to see this come up in step two, might be what eye color do you have, right? It's still not a number, but there's multiple answers. Be blue, hazel, green, brown, right? And you could have all these different eye colors. So those would be the levels, right? However many you have. So maybe there's 4 different options for eye colors. There's probably 5. And, you could say levels are 4, something like that. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see my Minitab screen here. I already pulled in the data and I have it all set to go. We can see the data here. So it says the new machine is in column 1. The old machine is in column 2. I scrolled down way too far. I scrolled over. Maybe, okay, there we go. So we have the data here. It was already presented to you in kind of like a little table in the Word document, but this was just already placed in Minitab for you. Okay. If you don't have data in Minitab, then you just enter it in yourself. It's usually just given to you. I usually give it to you in Minitab. Okay. So the variables. So here we have 2 different variables going on, right? So we have new machine and old machine. Right? So that's a variable that's categorical, right? There's 2 levels. Either you're the new machine working or you're the old machine working, right? So that's a categorical variable with 2 levels, new and old. Then what we're studying about those machines is numerical, right? It's a number. It's the time it took that machine to pack the box, right? So here we can see it's numerical and it's time, okay? Time to pack 10 cartons, I believe. It's to be specific for this example. So that's all I want you to do. Just type it up. When you look at the typed notes, if you go down to page 15, I believe, you'll see the completed example, right? You'll see how I type everything up. You'll see the Minitab that I put in there, all of it, okay? I'm going to show you how to do some of that. So it wants me to describe my data, right? Describe the shape, center, and spread. So remember what we said. For the shape, we're just going to state the shape, but for the center and spread, we're actually going to compare and report the values. So I'm going to compare them between the new machine and the old machine is what I'm talking about. So to get my values, I'm going to actually get some numbers to base all of this off of. So I want to get what we call descriptive statistics. So when I do this, I'm actually going to go right up here to stat, and I'm going to click on stat. And right at the very top, you'll see I have basic statistics. So I will go there. And the very first option, we have display descriptive statistics. I'm going to click on that. So here it wants to know the variables. So I'm looking at my descriptive statistics. I want to get like the mean, the median, that kind of stuff, okay? So I'm going to bring the variables in that I'm interested in getting my information. So that's both columns C1 and C2. So you can bring them in different ways. I normally just double click on C1, it brings it over, and then I will double click separately on C2 and bring it over. Another way to do it, I'm just going to back it out so you can see, is you could just highlight by clicking on C1, and then you can choose select, and then you can click on C2 right here in the box and then choose select. So it doesn't matter, and the order does not matter. I will always let you know if the order and how you bring things over matters, and it will at some point, but not right now. Okay. So I'm going to leave the second box blank. So the way we have our data in Minitab can be 2 different ways. It can be what we call stacked and unstacked. This, what we have here, and it's tricky at first to learn the difference. This is what we call unstacked. And what that means is I have 2 columns of separate data, meaning one column is all for the new machine and one column is all for the old machine times, right? That's unstacked data. Stacked data is where I still will have 2 columns, but one column would have machine type, and it would be, and all these spaces would say new and old and new and old and new and old. And then the second column would be the time, and it would have the numbers. So all the numbers would be in one column. That would be stacked. Here I have numbers in 2 different columns. It's a little tricky. So if you have unstacked like we have, we're going to do it this way. If you had stacked, then you would bring in the column that had all of the numbers in here to the variable, and then you would separate it out by the new and the old, which would be the other column. So you don't have to worry about it right now. I have it all typed up. It explains it all in the typed notes, and it's explained in your daily assignment, all of that stuff. So, and then of course you could always ask me when you get to it, and if you need to tell the difference or see it. I will at some point have an example of it stacked, and I will talk about it again. Okay. I'm going to just click on statistics right here, and I'm going to tell Minitab what I want to see. So everything that has a check mark, I will be given. So a lot of times right now, especially in the beginning, you could just get whatever it gives you, but you might want something specific. Like, look, the interquartile range is not given. I'm going to check that box. I really want that. And maybe I don't need the standard error of the mean. Maybe I don't need that right now. Okay, we're not really doing anything with that. Or maybe I don't need the min or the max. Maybe I want the range, right? So everyone, what they want is a little different, but just know what you should get is the mean, the standard deviation, the median, the interquartile range, right? Those 4 things we've already talked about, you should definitely get those. Okay. So I'm just going to click OK, and I'm going to click OK one more time. And here's my output. So it already separates it out because they're in 2 different columns, new machine and old machine. But if I had my data stacked, so all of the numbers were in one column and just new and old were in its own column, then, and I chose for it to be separated out, it would do it the same way. It would look the same way. So I just wanted you to know that. So here we can read a little bit about it. So N, remember, is how many data values we have in our set. So we have 10 in each set here. Here's my average, right? Here's my standard deviation, my mean, my quartile 1. Here's my median, my IQR, right? So we get a lot of information. So we can actually see a lot of what's going on here. So right here, I don't know if I have outliers because I don't have a visual in front of me, right? And I'm not going to calculate it. I don't need to. I just need to look at a box plot and I'll see if I have outliers. So I'm not sure if I'm going to use the mean or median to tell like for my center, my spread, or my standard deviation, my IQR, but I can look at the mean versus the median within a data set to see what shape I might have. So look at my mean is 42.1, 42.2. That's probably fairly symmetric, I would say, for a new machine. In the old machine, probably similar, 43.2 and 43.4. So those mean and medians are basically the same within each line, right? So those are probably fairly symmetric. So what I want you to do is I want you to be able to take this output and put it into the Word doc. So if you just hover over here, well, I guess you have to click on it. So if I didn't right click or anything, I just clicked here. And then you can go into this drop down box and you can go different ways. So I can copy, you can copy as a picture, which is what I suggest, or you can send to Word. So copy as a picture, it just brings it into, it just copies it as an image, and then you can paste it into your Word doc as an image. You could resize it. It's really nice. Also, you can do send to Word, which is nice if you want to highlight something. So maybe you're working in your Word doc, you're going to put your cursor where you want this output. Then you're going to come over to your Minitab, click here and go to send to Word, and it will put it in your Word doc where you left your cursor. It doesn't do it as an image. So you could actually click on things, you can highlight individual numbers. So maybe if you want to highlight something, you can always do that. Okay, I like you guys to leave it up to you so you can do whatever you want with it. It's your work. Okay, I just want to see the specific things I ask for. Any questions so far on that part?
One thing I just let you know, the Minitab on MacBook is different from the PC that you used.
It is. You are right. Yes. So if you have a Mac, it's different than for Windows. So I use Windows and all my directions are for Windows, but they're really similar, right? Is that what you're seeing? Like it might be a little off, but they're fairly similar. So I think if you're using a Mac, you could still follow the directions and get to the same place. Do you think that's accurate for me to say that?
There are similar, but there's some topic that don't have the program that on MacBook. Because
Okay.
last semester I used Minitab, like I had experience using it, and I've been trying to use a MacBook, but apparently it's not that great. So I just use Windows from the library.
Okay, or another option is that you can run your Mac as a PC. So you know how you can run it as a PC and then you can use the Minitab that way. But you're right, and you could always go to a computer lab on campus. All of the computers have Minitab. They might not all be the 19 version. Like I think in the College of Business, it might be an older version, but it still works and they're very similar. So thank you for mentioning.
Actually, something that I found online was using the RIT Remote Labs link online. That's what I'm using right now.
Okay, yes, and I do have that for people that do need that. Yes, so you yes, you can go right in and use a computer basically that's on campus, but from your home computer. Yes. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I love that. I love that you guys are sharing. All right, so that's how we get descriptive statistics. And now I want to show you guys how to get some graphs. So I want to show you how to get a histogram or a box plot and that kind of thing. So let's start with the histogram. So, and you're going to see when you have a graph, you could choose so many different options. So I'm just going to go right here to graph. And I'm going to go right to the histogram option. Okay. So I'm just going to choose a simple histogram. That's here. Go to OK. And I'm going to choose, now you could choose one at a time. You could choose two at a time. So I'm going to just choose one at a time. So the new machine. And when I'm looking at that, I don't have to really add anything. So I don't really have to change anything if I don't want to. So I'm just going to go ahead and view what the histogram of the new machine looks like. So it's kind of interesting looking, right? I don't have a lot of data. I have 10 values. It's not really a lot. So it's okay. It doesn't give me a great picture. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the histogram of the other machine. I'm going to take the new machine out and put the old machine in here. And there, so I have the old, and this is the old one. So I thought maybe it was kind of symmetric, and now I'm looking at this, now I'm second guessing my thought, right? And that's okay. That's why a visual is really nice. And when I see this blank here and then this value, I don't like that. It makes me think an outlier. And this is where I say, you know what? I'm going to look at a box plot. I feel like a box plot's going to give me a lot more information. So again, with these, you just click on them and that drop down arrow, and you can copy as a graph and then copy and paste it into your Word doc, because you always want to support your Word doc with all of this output from Minitab. So let's go ahead and take a look at the box plots here. So I'm going to go to graph box plot. Okay. So with this one, we can go different ways with this. So you can do simple. The with groups would be for stacked data. Simple is just by itself. I'm going to show you a couple of different things. So I'm just going to go simple. I'm just going to look at it with the new machine. And I actually want to add something to it. So when I go in here, I got to remember, it is my data view. So when I go to my data view, I'm actually going to go down to the bottom here, and I'm going to ask Minitab to give me the mean symbol on there. Remember, because the mean versus the median tells me the shape. So I'm going to ask for it on there. Click OK. I'm going to click OK. Now this is going to be vertical, this box plot. If you want to change how it is, you can go to the scale and transpose. Okay. So if you wanted it horizontal, like you're used to drawing it in Stat 1, you would transpose it, but you don't have to. You can view it vertical or horizontal, it just automatically gives it to you vertically. And this is what I mean. I didn't mean to do that. Let me kind of bring this down. Okay. It's still here. This looks kind of symmetric to me. When I look at this box plot, I want to say symmetric. I want to say it's pretty symmetric. And I want to just now take a look at the other one. So I'm going to go to the same. I'm going to take the new machine out by just hitting my back button. And I don't have to go back in the data view to show the mean symbol because I already did it. So it's already there. So now look at, here's my old machine. This doesn't look as symmetric, does it? I mean, so you can really see. So let's take a look at both of these on one axis. So I'm going to go to graph again, box plot. I'm going to choose this multiple Y's, this simple. So Y1 and Y2. This is going to put them both on one axis so I can view them both together. Just make sure the data view, yep, you gotta do the mean symbols. Okay, and I'm going to click OK. So now I have new machine and old machine both listed in there. There they are, side by side. I love this view. Okay, so first of all, I don't see any outliers. Remember, an outlier will be, you will see like an asterisk somewhere's pointed out in here, which really with 10 values, you're probably not going to have an outlier unless it's really far. You know, it's kind of tricky with 10 values. But look at, we can get an idea here. I don't know. This is really making me feel that this old machine is skewed left a little. I feel like I have a long tail here. The mean is smaller than the median. I don't know. This might be skewed left. And then I still think that new machine is pretty symmetric, even though the mean is slightly smaller than the median. What I want you guys to realize is you're gonna, you know, click on here and you're gonna copy it and, you know, copy the graph and you're gonna paste it into your Word document. I want you to know whatever you talk about the graph and support, you're supporting it with this document. So if you say to me, you know what, they both look a little skewed left, I would not disagree, right? Because the mean is smaller on this new one. But if you said like what I said, that maybe this is a little symmetric and this one's a little skewed left, I would also agree with that. So I want you to know it's not always cut and dry, and that's okay with me, all right? As long as you have something to support what you're claiming. All right, so that's how we look at some graphs on here. Just want to see if I had anything else that I wanted to mention, and I know we're kind of a little low on time. So, you know, when you're going to do a write-up, and I'm going to share my screen again, I got to stop this because I don't think I can get back in. Sorry, I'm like so close to my camera. I want to go back to the Word doc. I want you to see this here. So if I go back into the day one notes, I want you to see the, oh my gosh, this is so slow. On the next page, it's the completed example. I want you to see how I would type this up, you know, what I'm expecting to see from you guys. So right here, we talked about the numerical variable is the time, the categorical variable, you know, is the type of machine, and the levels are 2 levels, new and old, that kind of thing. And look, I have all this Minitab output right here. It's everything we just looked at, everything we just did, right? And then I describe it. And I describe it using complete sentences. Like I'm actually typing up a report. I'm not just saying symmetric. The mean is 42. You know, I'm not just saying that. Like explain what you see. Talk about what you see. Okay. So give me full, complete sentences and like a little paragraph about what's going on, or a couple sentences. Okay. It doesn't have to be a full story. But give me, right, a little information about what you see for that shape. Again, for the center. So for the center, you want to compare the centers. Look at the centers here from the new machine and old machine. I mean, look at the time difference here. The old machine, look how much slower it is than the new machine. Do you see it? Looking at this box plot, you can really see it. Looking at the numbers, I can't see it. But looking at the box plots, it really puts it in perspective for us. And you can really see that the old machine has slower time on average, and it's quite a bit slower, right? So I just feel like you could really get some good information looking at these in a visual way. And the box plot's a great way to start with that. So you can talk about the spread. Remember, the spread is that width of the box, the IQR. Look at even the spread on the old machine is a lot larger. Well, not a lot larger, but it's larger than the new. So it just means that it's more variable, right? And that's not necessarily a good thing when you're looking at times that a machine is taking, doing anything, okay? So you'll notice on these typed notes, you have all different examples. I'm going to normally show you one example or maybe two examples, and you'll see they have the examples typed up and then the solutions on the next page. So you always can go and refer back to these and see, how you would handle it. And in the notes, it always talks about what I just talked about, how to go through Minitab and all the steps. Does anyone have any questions for me on that? I know I kind of went fast on that because I was like so focused on getting everyone in class and doing the syllabus and going over all that stuff. All right.